with your hosts, Corey Robinson and Justin Thin.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Spartan Beat. I'm Justin Thin. I'm here with my co-host Corey Robinson, and this time we're also joined by another one of our colleagues at Spartan Tailgate, and that's Stephen Brooks. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Appreciate you guys inviting me down here. I think we got a good show coming up, so like I said, thanks a lot. Ready to get into it, man.
Yeah, definitely happy to bring something live to you guys tonight too, so we don't have to worry about missing anything. We somehow got lucky and avoided that for the first couple months, but now we can come live to you guys and keep everything cutting and breaking news.
Yeah, we used to have to record on Wednesday night, same time as right now, but then the show would get posted on Thursdays, and we would always be worried about whether or not some news would break in between that span. But yeah, like Corey said, we were pretty lucky. But now we're live here Wednesday night, and we're ready to talk some actual in-season football as opposed to just recruiting for the most part in the past. But so right now, I guess we'll just jump into some of the position battles that have been going on, some of the observations that Steven has possibly had because he's attended all of the different open camp sessions that the media could see for 15 minutes each day. And I guess we will start with the quarterback position just because that's the one everyone's talking about, even though that's the one where we might not have much to say because it really is 50-50, it seems like. That's what you've seen, Stephen, I'm assuming as well, during the reps and during practices.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad you brought that up, Justin. Didn't know if we were going to get to that.
I almost forgot.
Yeah. I'm sure the listeners are happy. But we'll see how long they're going to be happy because, like you said, I mean, I don't have a great idea for it, but either based on things I've heard or based on things I've seen. It's still a coin flip for me. I could buy anything. I could see either guy trotting out there. I don't think there's been any clues, especially, when we go in there for 15 minutes at a time. We've seen both guys take first-team reps. I've seen good moments from both. I've seen bad moments from both. And still take all that into account. I've probably seen 2 total hours, maybe, added all up, of training camp. So very, very small sample size. It's absolutely feasible that one of these guys is lighting it up the second I leave or something, and the rest of the media is out the door. But I really couldn't tell you. I think I think we're aware of both guys' strengths and what they bring to the table. It sounds like it's still up in the air at this point.
Right. Corey, what are your thoughts on I guess, just the battle itself and kind of the two quarterbacks?
Yeah, I've kind of went back and forth on it. When Russo first came to Michigan State, I'm like, all right, yeah, he's going to be the guy. He's got the bigger arm, kind of that NFL profile, if he can put it together and lose the turnovers. And then I kind of leaned towards Thorne. I'm like, oh, well, he can really do a lot of things in the offense with his ability to move the ball and extend plays with his feet, and then just his ability to get the ball out on time all over the place. And now maybe the last couple weeks, now I'm starting to fall back more towards Russo a little, just maybe about the things I liked originally. But I think this is probably just like me overanalyzing it. And I know a lot of the people that I talk with that are pretty open about stuff have been really quiet on quarterbacks. So they're not giving any hints out either. So, I mean, I think they know who they want and they have their guy, but they haven't made any leaks to give me any idea that I would think who it would be it.
Right, and yeah, the only thing I've gotten is the fact that Russo had his best practice during the final scrimmage, so we'll see if that ends up tilting things in his favor or not. But yeah, like both of you guys kind of said, it's like 50-50, and I know everyone kind of has their guy of who they want it to be, and I know I was kind of championing the cause of Russo for quarterback one earlier on, but like, just like Corey was saying, like it just goes back and forth. Like you start to weigh each guy's strengths and weaknesses. Recently, the mobility aspect has been coming into my mind a lot, especially with the fact that Eli Collins is back now. Jordan Simmons should be good, so they have multiple kind of running backs, so I'm starting to think, hey, could they do some split back formations and maybe try to do a triple option, some sort of new things that we haven't really seen too much from Michigan State in the past that kind of Russo wouldn't really allow for. But then I still go back to my original points, just like Corey was saying about Russo's the guy that's polished. He has a bigger arm, which would allow for Michigan State receivers to finally be used for deep threats. He's seen so much more football. He's probably going to be able to see most things coming, and you won't really have to worry about throwing him into the fire. And he's a guy that you kind of know what you're going to get. You're going to get some interceptions, but you know you're also going to be able to move the ball. And I know that people think that Thorne is promising, and he is, but we have to remember that he really just has about 5 to 7 great plays, above average plays. Beyond that, he was pretty much stifled against Ohio State, Indiana in the second half of Penn State. So I can see the promise for sure, but it's not like one guy is a bona fide rising star whose growth is going to be stunted by a guy that's not any good. That's kind of the narrative that some are putting out there, and that's not really the case. But the only other thing I'll say on the quarterback battle before we move on is I'm of the belief that it should have absolutely no bearing that Peyton Thorne has longer eligibility and therefore more time to reach his ceiling, and therefore he should have an edge just so it can help him develop for the future years. I think this decision should only be made with who is more likely to get Michigan State to a bowl game, to continue recruiting momentum, and to get those extra practices for the bowl weeks. So that's where I stand on the philosophy. Anything else you guys want to add over there?
I'd say Mel obviously has proven that winning now is the biggest thing too, and like obviously you always build for the future, but he wants to win now, and he's proved that with what he did in the transfer portal, fixing a broken back seven on the defense and getting an offensive tackle, some running backs. So, I mean, Mel, I think, is going to make the right decision for right now, and then you can have a battle later. If it ends up being Russo this year, then you can have Hauser, Hampfey, and Thorne battle it out next year.
Right.
I agree I agree with that. I would say even narrow the focus and just say it has to be about who can beat Northwestern, and then you figure it out from there. If you need to use Youngstown State, as an extended tryout, so be it. If it has to go week to week, so be it. But it's just got to be a constant reevaluation. Who gives us the best chance to win the next game? Big picture that I totally connects to your point that this season and this first week, everything, it's all about just stacking up wins, moving the ball forward as a program, showing improvement, and being able to build on what I think I'll say is some pretty significant momentum that was created this summer off the field.
Right. Okay, so that's pretty much all that we can really say about the quarterback battle at this point until they choose somebody. So I guess the other kind of battles that are sticking out is cornerback on the outside, opposite of Ronald Williams. That spot's kind of up for grabs between Chester Kimbrough and Kalen Gervin. And then the other position that would come to mind is linebacker playing next to Quavaris Crouch. And then I guess wide receiver 3 a little bit. So for those positions, Steven, I guess first at camp, what have you seen in regards to maybe having a read on who might have those jobs locked down, or just, I guess, your own takes even beyond just camp?
Sure. I'm trying to remember your order there. The cornerback spot.
Oh, order doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, it's Gervin and Kimbrough on the outside there. It's a pretty simple situation. Gervin knows the system, veteran guy, trusted, decent, good leader, good locker room guy and all that. And then Kimbrough's edge is his athleticism, and I've heard that from multiple people. And you would think that would allow him to overcome, but it hasn't happened yet from what I've heard. So Gervin's still holding him off for now. I could see Gervin starting game 1, but I think that'll be a constant evaluation situation as well. I think that you'll see – I wouldn't be shocked to see Kimbrough starting and sort of take over that job at some point in the season. Apparently it hasn't happened yet, but they're right there fighting with each other, and Gervin with a slight lead now, it sounds like. Linebacker, I think it's going to be Harvey and Crouch. I don't know which one you named. I think it's going to be those two guys. Harvey is the guy with the experience, and again, just like with Gervin, experience in the system. I think we all saw last year that this is a pretty complex system for a lot of these guys to pick up, and I think it's important to have sort of a table setter out there. I think Crouch will start no matter what, and so with somebody like that, you want to have a table setter out there with him to get everybody lined up, especially with some new guys in the back end as well. I think that gives him the edge there. Crouch is just so athletic. He's not like any of the other linebackers. He definitely looks the part when I've seen him in person. Closes on the ball well, moves his feet, light on his feet. I don't see any way he's not starting. He just came out to us and talked with the media the other day, and that's another strong clue in his favor. The other thing, I think you said wide receiver 3. I've talked about this a few times. I don't know if that's even really a thing. Like, I think the best way to look at it is like you got your A class and your B class, and your A is obviously Jaden Reed and Jalen Naylor. They're going to play a ton. But I think that B class is like almost 7 or 8 deep, and all of them are going to play a lot. So, I mean, I don't even know if that label is really accurate, because I think, like I said, 6 people could technically be wide receiver 3. Trey Mosley is the most experienced. Montori Foster is a guy who has a lot of buzz, and he's looked good when I've seen him in camp. As you guys know, I mean, from following him as a recruit, he's the guy who's just really scratching the surface and just really got serious about football again as a senior. And so a good find by the previous staff there, it sounds like. Terry Lockett, Christian Fitzpatrick, Keon Coleman, Ian Stewart, Cade McDonald. I mean, they're deep there. I think they're going to play a lot of guys, and I think all those guys are going to receive roughly similar snaps. I don't think there will be a clear third that sort of emerges right behind Reed and Naylor. I think it's going to be a big jumbled mix.
Okay. Corey, your thoughts on those battles?
Yeah, I definitely go with Steven on the corner with Gervin. I think he has a slight edge just because he knows what he's doing back there. But Kimbrough probably has maybe more upside, and that's going to be a battle that's won. Maybe not. It's not going to be won week 1. It's going to be an earned thing each game, I think, until one of them runs away with it. Linebacker, same thing. It's Crouch and Harvey for me, just because you got to have that guy to line everybody up, and that's what Harvey is, especially with Antoine Simmons leaving early and then not using his extra year of eligibility. So now you really have to have a guy out there at linebacker that can line everybody up, and that's Harvey. And then with wide receiver, yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of people unless somebody can run away with it. I think Mosley's obviously the safe bet just because he's played the most. I think Montori Foster, he reminds me a lot of Benny Fowler. Once he figures it out, I think he's going to do a lot of big things just with his size and athleticism. And then Keon Coleman and Fitzpatrick, those guys are just monsters. So you'll use those guys in certain situations. And then I've noticed a lot of times Lockett is the guy that just happens to be there running with those ones a lot too. So, I mean, honestly, that's just go out there, earn it. If somebody can earn the 3, then they do. Right. But most likely it's going to be matchups and situations, I think, that they use that spot for.
Yeah, I think it's we're all in agreement in terms of cornerback and linebacker. And then for receiver, yeah, I mean, definitely what Steven was saying about it's a clear-cut 2 guys at the top in Reed and Naylor, and then there's a lot of guys battling for the 3rd spot. So I guess would it be fair to say that if the Spartans line up in 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers against Northwestern, it wouldn't surprise anyone if Trey Mosley's the guy that lines up there, but let's say 3 or 4 guys might get equal playing time at that position during those formations against Northwestern. Is that fair to say?
That's basically what I'm expecting, yeah. And then I think those 3 or 4 guys could change week to week, Right. Keon Coleman might have a big role one week, and then he doesn't the next week because Terry Lockett, fits better or whatever. And that's a good thing, though, about that long list of names that we've all brought up, is there's a lot of different skill sets and body types in there. And it even depends on, like, Jaden Reed, I think, is going to do a lot more inside and outside. I don't think he's going to be exclusively in the slot this year, so that determines things. Do they then put another slot type in the slot, or do they put a bigger guy in the slot and change their look there? Where they put one of 2 of Reed and Naylor will depend on really who that 3rd is or what the situation calls for. But yeah, I do think it'll be 3, 4, or 5 guys rotating in, and again, the next week it could be another combination of 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah, certainly. So that kind of locks up or covers those position battles there. Anything else from camp that we want to bring up that are just observations? I know one of the things that we were all hoping would be seen this year is Connor Hayward kind of getting more looks in the tight end position, because that seems to be HVAC position, since that seems to be more natural for him. I know Harold Joyner is also going to be in that spot. Any other observations, Stephen, that stuck out to you while you were in attendance?
Sure, yeah, we can just run over them. Tank Brown, if you guys haven't caught up or listened or heard yet, I don't know what you guys covered on him previously. He obviously came in as a linebacker from Minnesota, and the second time we were out there as reporters at camp, I noticed him working with the D-line. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then we see a scrimmage video where he gets around the edge and gets a sack on Russo, and then asks some coaches about it and everything. And so, yeah, he's working as a defensive end right now, and that's really interesting because I think they really do need to gas up their pass rush. They're experienced and they're deep along the D-line, but they don't have that scary pass rusher. And I don't know that he's it yet, but I think he could be it. You look at him, he's extremely long and lanky, filled out pretty well for a younger guy. I think with some time and with some refinement, he could be a good one. I mean, Scotty Hazelton was talking about he saw him doing a pass rush drill as a linebacker and then went, woo, and saw him flip his hips and sent him right down to the D-line, like immediately almost. So that's an interesting thing. I think you might see him here and there this year. Malik Carr started camp, the tight end transfer from Purdue, started camp in a boot and progressed out of the boot and is working his way into full go, full speed, full contact stuff. As of Monday, I don't believe he'd had been in a full contact practice, and he was still at about 90% running-wise and just, physical exertion and everything. I know a lot of us have talked about he's probably a guy that you just keep tucked away and think about a year or two from now in terms of being a weapon, but absolutely looks the part, and maybe he shows up a couple times this year. And then you mentioned Hayward, and that's probably the other main thing in terms of like new changes or guys that in unfamiliar spots.
Yeah, for me, I guess it would be obviously Tank Brown. I'm with him on that one. That's somebody they needed to have step up with that profile, and when he got here, he was the guy I immediately said slide him down, if nothing else, to stand up on the line, because you got to get somebody that can come off that edge with some athleticism, because they've lacked that since, years. It's been a while since they've had a really athletic pass rusher like that, because even when you had Willikis, that was more, pure power and just engine and motor, where they haven't had, where Brown is more in that Montez Sweat mold, where he's just a freak athlete, can do a lot of things. So once he figures it out, and then I guess the other one was Jarrett Horst, the offensive tackle, where he'll probably start at left tackle this year. And then you have a Curry at right tackle. I think I've mentioned it in the past, but this will be the first time, if those two start and stay healthy, it'll be the first time since 2015 that Michigan State has started two legitimate tackles at tackle. They've always had a guard playing tackle, in my opinion, whether it was Jordan Reed or Kevin Jarvis. So that in itself is huge. And it slides Jarvis inside where he can be his natural guard, where he can just go maul some guys. And now, after playing a couple years at tackle, he's going to actually be a plus pass blocker for an inside guy. So, I think the offensive line is the huge key. Michigan State's got to run the ball, because while the defense has improved, it's still not where you need it to be, especially from a depth standpoint. So the less they're on the field, the better the season goes, in my opinion. And then, I guess the observation, not on a person, is just the size of the kids now. Like, the team got so much bigger and stronger and faster, whether it be from additions from the 2021 class or the transfer portal, and then just the returning guys with the work that they did in the weight room with Novak and the nutrition with Reinstein. You look at these guys, and a lot of these guys are just physically different than what we saw the last few years here in East Lansing.
Yeah, absolutely. These are guys that are coming in from other programs with experience that hopefully they can go ahead and put forth, especially guys like Ronald Williams, who knows the standard, like Mel was saying the other day. And obviously Q Crouch played a full season in the SEC, and Kenny Walker was tied for the lead with touchdowns last year. Just lots of promising guys, and then a lot of guys, like you said, like Tank Brown, who doesn't have experience yet but has potential. So I guess that pretty much covers the camp and position battles element. So now we can move into kind of just touching on the schedule. We won't be providing any gambling advice or solid predictions for wins and losses, unfortunately. There are other ways that you can go broke besides listening to us. So I guess we'll start right from the beginning at Northwestern. I guess I'll kind of share my thoughts early and then toss it over to you guys. But I'm not very impressed with what Northwestern returns right now after having lost, I think, their 5 best defensive players. And then they also lost their franchise left tackle type that went in the first round in Rashawn Slater. Then they also lost, obviously, their quarterback, Peyton Ramsey, who wasn't sensational, but I would definitely say he's probably going to be better than Hunter Johnson. So I think that Michigan State should be able to win this game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, even though I do kind of think that's what the talent difference would yield. But I just think it's a first game. Back 7 hasn't played together too much. Might be some miscommunications there. So I don't expect a blowout, but I expect a win for sure. Steven, we'll go to you first. Thoughts on the Northwestern game real quick?
Yeah, it just I think I think a lot better about a lot higher of Michigan State's chances now than I did a week or two ago before I learned about Hunter Johnson with respect to him and before the running back went down.
Porter.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I'll say this. I think it's a great first game for Michigan State. I don't know how it's going to go, but I think it's a great first game. It's a great measuring stick. I think Northwestern always plays hard. They've got, at least middle of the road Big Ten talent, at least, obviously coming off the division title. I think that's what you want if you're Michigan State. I don't think you want to set any false impressions or establish any false confidence. Look, if they go out there and thoroughly beat them and look great doing it, like, that'll be real confidence. If they get pounded, that'll be a real measuring stick. Like, if there's anywhere in between, I just think it's a really solid gauge of where this team actually is with, to keep harping on it, so many unknowns.
Right. Corey?
Yeah, first games are always tricky too. You never really know what you're getting. So, I think if Mel Tucker could do it his way, he'd probably have Youngstown State and Northwestern flip. So you go through those growing pains that you see in the first games. But, I mean, that's for both teams. So I think that will make it a little closer than you want sometimes because every now and then, most teams aren't ready the first week and they make those mental mistakes. But for Michigan State, I think it's a great one because if you win, then that creates momentum because you just beat Northwestern, who coming in was a top 15 team on the road. If you lose and it's close, if you lost that on the road to a top 15 team last year, so, you're not going to take too much out of that. The biggest thing is you can't get blown out because then all of a sudden that's going to create some controversy and all of that. So I think for Michigan State, it's go in there, control the line of scrimmage, try to run the ball, and then take advantage of Newsome, their big-time corner, not being there. I think we've talked privately as a group where I thought he was one of the best corners in the Big Ten in a long time, right. And had he went to a different school, you would be talking about him for the Thorpe and all that other stuff. So I think I just think Northwestern's probably missing too much from last year's team, and then with the injuries, I would probably lean towards Michigan State in a tight game.
Right. Yeah. I think that pretty much covers it there. And then up next is the home opener at noon against Youngstown State. I don't think we'll spend too much time on this. I think Michigan State needs to win this game if they hope to make a bowl game. Any other additions you guys want to make here?
No, like I said earlier, just an opportunity to basically extend training camp with respect to Youngstown State. If there's any lingering position battles or questions, that's where you got to get it figured out because it gets real the next week.
Yeah, stay healthy and come out of that game feeling really good going into Miami is the key, I think.
Right. And then I have an article coming out next week where I kind of touch on who each of these opponents play the week before they play Michigan State. So I guess for Youngstown State here, I'll start kind of filling those details in. And the week before, they play Incarnate Word, if I'm saying that right. So Don't think Michigan State fans will get any sort of eye test on Youngstown State after that game. Next up, Michigan State travels to Miami Gardens, Florida, to play the Hurricanes. That is a noon game, so it'll be hot. And that is a game that all eyes will kind of be out on Michigan State. If Michigan State starts 2-0, people are going to be kind of cautiously optimistic, but this Miami game could kind of give actual insight into what kind of team Michigan State will be. They'll have had 2 weeks to kind of get the wrinkles out, and they're going against a good program down there at Miami. So I think Derek King being back is going to make this game hard for Michigan State. The guy can run around. They have speed on the edges. They spread it out, and they throw it, and they run it. So it's going to be sort of – Michigan State's going to be tested in every facet on defense. And then offense, they're not going to be able to just run by Miami like they might be able to against Youngstown State with Reed and Naylor and maybe even Northwestern. So I wouldn't consider this to be a game that Michigan State would be favored in by any stretch. Any kind of analysis or anything you guys want to add? I know we're not really making predictions on wins and losses, so I guess just what are your thoughts on playing Miami?
For me, it's the speed. Like, Miami's got a ton of speed. Michigan State's improving it, but they're not where they want it to be yet. So You're going to have to be able to not have them beat you with their feet constantly. So you're going to have to play discipline to your gap assignments to kind of negate some of that speed. And then, on offense against their defense, just go out there and be tougher than them, try and control the clock. And then I know you said you had the schedule. I believe Miami plays at least one good game before then. So what do they look like?
Right. So 2 weeks before they play Michigan State, they play Alabama. And then the week after that, they play Appalachian State. So neither will be an easy game for Miami, and that should be two good eye tests for Michigan State.
And against Alabama, how healthy do you come out of that? Because as good as athletes Miami has, Alabama's the Toon Squad. The monster squad there. So, does Derek King, is he the quarterback under center week 3 after playing against Alabama? Or who else is missing? So, those are all factors once you get into week 3.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into too many hypotheticals like this, but if Miami loses to Alabama, which they probably will, and then if for some possible reason they stumble to Appalachian State, which I don't know who they have returning this year, but they've been a good team the past couple of years, I think. So if they start off 0-2, they might just go into meltdown mode like Miami has done a few times in the past. But like I said, that's just crazy hypothetical there, so that's probably not going to happen. But Steven, your thoughts on Miami?
Yeah, I think you want to see composure from players and coaches. Look, like you guys have both said, I don't think it's going to end well for Michigan State, but how bad is it? And that's the thing. I don't think you don't want to see it spiral. If they go down 14-0 really quick, do they end up losing 45-6? That you want to see them hold their water when things get tough, and I assume they will. It'll be hot at noon in South Florida. Will the coaches be able to come up with countermeasures for that speed that Corey talked about? Or will they? Like I said, will they stay composed? If they do, if whoever starts a quarterback throws a pick 6 in the first series, and then Miami scores again, it's 14-0. Are they going to jump the gun and pull the QB and panic? The whole program, I think this is going to be a little bit of a stress test. It's going to be a little bit of an eye-opener of what that other tier looks like. Not saying they're at the top tier, but I think they're in a different tier than Michigan State right now.
Yeah, for sure. So the week after that, Michigan State gets to come home and plays against Nebraska. Nebraska, the week before they play Michigan State, they play at Oklahoma, so they will be coming off of a loss there, I'm confident enough to say. And I don't exactly know which way to look at that bashing that they might take, as if it'll be a wake-up call or as if they will be kind of just devastated. We'll see. I don't exactly have a personal consensus on that, but that's kind of an interesting thing to consider there. Michigan State will definitely get some high-level tape on Nebraska. I think that Michigan State should be able to win this game. Scott Frost hasn't recruited that poorly. Not great, but there's some talent on that team. It's just about pulling it together. Your guys' thoughts on Nebraska?
I agree.
Oh, also, wait, sorry, 1 second. So that game, we've kind of gathered that 6 or 7 Michigan State recruits should be coming. So once we get that list finalized, we'll kind of get that reported and put out there. But that's kind of fluid. Sorry, go ahead, Steven.
No, so it's Oklahoma directly the week before for Nebraska,
Yes,
right? Okay.
directly the week before.
Yeah, I kind of wonder about their confidence after that one. In one sense, like if it was at home, I might think differently because I think if they get just spanked by Oklahoma, they could. If they're at home, they could feel that pressure of like we got to turn this around. We feel the heat. We know the buzz about Scott Frost, and that could be a powerful combination. I think maybe at home. Coming here though, like I said, I kind of wonder if their heads are hung and they just surrendered 60 plus points to Oklahoma. Do they feel that spiral and sort of feel themselves swirling the bowl there a little bit? That's what I wonder with them.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree with that too. I think Nebraska's in a bad spot right now, and it's not going to get any better playing Oklahoma, Michigan State, and some others. So I think this is probably the final year for the Frost era, and that's not going to work
Agreed.
for them. So I
Yeah.
think they're going to probably come in and maybe like how bad are they going to be spiraling from everything going on right now and then just the season.
It feels like a
Yeah.
fragile program right now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does. And I think now that they kind of got those Frost allegations out in the public, the administration can kind of fire him for cause now, which will save him $20 million of a buyout. So that's probably going to be something that's in that staff's mind. Well, it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens there. The next game is Western Kentucky, which is a home night game. So this one kind of scares me more than it scares most of the people out there, I want to guess. Maybe I'm making too much of a big deal of this, but Houston Baptist's quarterback, Bailey Zapp, transferred to Western Kentucky over the offseason, along with his offensive coordinator, Zach Kitley, and I believe his leading wide receiver at Houston Baptist. And those guys over there threw for 500 million yards last year in a scheme that they'll be bringing over here to Michigan or against Michigan State at Western Kentucky. And they, I don't want to say that it's something that they could carry over to FBS level competition, but I believe when they played a Big 12 team last year, they only lost by a touchdown or two. I want to guess Texas Tech, but. So that's with Houston Baptist wide receivers and offensive line. So I don't think that they'll beat Michigan State, but this is not a game that some are viewing on the same level as the Youngstown State game, and that is just not the case. So what are your guys? Am I kind of out of place here with my fear of Bailey Zapp and coming into Western Kentucky and bringing his revolutionary air raid offense here?
Yeah, I'm not too concerned with them just because that's like a huge step up from like that. It's one thing to do it against like I guess Hazlitt and East Lansing, but
They did it against Texas Tech though.
yeah, that's the Big 12 though.
That's
Defense is optional there.
Right.
No, I mean obviously maybe it could be one of those situations like Utah State a few years back where they start hitting on some stuff and getting confident a little bit, but I mean overall that's a game that Michigan State's just got to physically dominate those guys.
That's how upsets happen, though. I do think you got to go in eyes wide open to this one because that's how these mid-major football upsets happen is with a crazy offense that you blink and all of a sudden what just happened? They're up 21-0. Oh my God! And now we're panicking. Now we're not executing. Now we're not confident. I was going to mention this for Miami. It comes right back up here. We got to know what type of tackling secondary Michigan State has with some of these new guys. Because they're going to try to stress you on the edge. And I don't think that was a strength of Michigan State's defense last year. When you talk about a new-look defense overall, I think that's still something that we got to find out. And we probably will by that point, but as we sit here in late August, again, if you can't tackle well in the back end, if you got an explosive offense, that's not a comfortable position to be in. That's homecoming too, I believe, right? So a home night game,
Yes.
Nerves, environment. If Western Kentucky somehow gets off to a hot start, that could be a little uncomfortable. But I agree that they should be able to push them around and enforce their will over the course of 4 quarters.
And the team that Western Kentucky plays the game before is they host Indiana. So we'll get a Big Ten level kind of showing out of them to kind of watch the week before and kind of see and form our opinions on as we get closer.
Yeah, that probably actually helps Michigan State in a way. Just
Yeah,
so
I would agree.
if they look kind of decent there,
Yeah.
then Michigan State, that gets Michigan State's attention a little bit more. But I mean, I guess another thing to add too is I know Steven, he goes to the practices and he's seen them, and then everybody that saw the spring games and some of the open stuff is how fast Michigan State practices. Like, that's going to help them against defending those type of teams because they're already used to moving that faster in practice. So that's one of those overlooked things where they do it obviously to get as many plays as they can in a practice because you only got so much time, but it also helps them run a hurry up offense or defend a hurry up offense. So that, I think that's going to get them in a better position where maybe some of the good D'Antonio defenses kind of struggled with some of those fast ones just because they didn't practice at that pace, so that was out of their norm.
Talking to some guys, that Rutgers game last year when they came in with the new OC, they were sort of shell-shocked by that speed of Rutgers, and I think it was Xavier Henderson said that might have been the fastest pace he's seen, and he's played a lot of football here, of course. So after that Rutgers situation, how that happened and how blown away they were by that, you would hope that they're not going to make the same mistake twice and maybe overlook anything with tempo.
Yeah. We'll do a couple more games, and then I think it might be just more worth it to kind of do a mid-season checkpoint for the second half of the schedule because we'll actually know more about the team by then. But so the next game is at Rutgers, and then the game after that is at Indiana. So do we have any sort of strong feelings about the Rutgers game? I know the fact that Michigan State has much more tape on them and was probably more talented last year, despite the fact that they didn't win that game, kind of should be a little comforting. So I'm assuming it's not as sloppy. That's a game we think that Michigan State can win.
I mean, I think they got some pretty decent talent at Rutgers as far as like a piece here or there, and that's kind of what Shiano did his first time there, is he had a guy here or there like all over the field that could help. But I think Michigan State comes in like angry because, like, I mean, you can say tip your hat to Rutgers or not, but that's embarrassing to lose to Rutgers. Like, it is, especially at home.
Right.
So now you're going to come in, you know what you felt like, all those returning guys, you know how you felt going into that locker room and knowing that you lost to them. So, I mean, I think that motivation might help because, I mean, for me, I know if I was a player, I'd be pissed off if I lost to Rutgers. Like, that's not why you come to Michigan State. Like, and especially at home. I mean, what they have 7 turnovers. If they limited it to 5, they probably win that game. That Jalen Naylor, when he fumbled the punt in the red zone, even that play alone, if he doesn't fumble that, Michigan State had momentum, they had the ball, and they probably win the game there. So for me, like, if I'm the coaches and the players, like, I'm just beating that feeling that you had to have after that game last year.
And I think you could be looking at some momentum. I think we all think they'll lose at Miami, and that'll be a test. Nebraska, Western Kentucky, you'd think they'll probably win, and then they're probably finding their footing. It's October. It's mid-season. They've got their legs under them. They've seen a lot of different situations. Assuming they're healthy and things haven't gone completely off the rails, you'd think they would be able to lock in for this one and sort of get revenge. And like you said, I mean, as bad as it was last year, the embarrassment was their performance for me. It was turning the ball over that way. That was more embarrassing than anything.
Right.
And yet, like you said, though, they still could have won that game with just 1 or 2 fewer. So I think that they'll have their heads screwed on straight for that one and be able to get it done.
Right. And similar to how Nebraska plays Oklahoma the week before, Rutgers plays Ohio State the week before, so that'll maybe shake their confidence a little bit. But Greg Schiano's a good coach, so I'm sure he's going to be able to kind of soften the impacts of that. But so that kind of takes us through the first 6 weeks of the season. We'll stop there as we're going to talk to Curtis Daniel after the break. But, Stephen, thanks a lot for joining us, and we definitely look forward to having you back soon. And at the latest, we'll be having you in for a mid-season checkpoint to go over the second half of the schedule.
Not a problem, guys. Thank you for having me on. I'm not downtown anymore, but I'm still pretty close. So whenever you want to have me back, I'm always down.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Appreciate it. So we'll be back right after this quick break.
Spotify is expanding paid podcast subscriptions to all U.S. creators starting September 15th. Up until now, a dozen indie publishers have been given the premium option that's been activated on about 100 podcasts. Spotify is introducing 20 new pricing options for podcasts to offer creators more flexibility. Peloton re-releasing the Tread next month. The company had to halt sales and recalled the smart treadmills earlier this year after reports of several injuries and one fatality. Some lucky Lyft riders might get picked up in the iconic Wienermobile. Hot dog maker Oscar Mayer's distinct wiener-shaped car is available on the Lyft app this week, but only for a select few in New York, Chicago, LA, and Atlanta. This week, riders in those cities who request a Lyft XL could be matched with a really big 27-foot-long hot dog instead. You won't know if the surprise Wienermobile is coming until it arrives. The ride in the wiener will be free. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
I'm Tony Cuthbert with your Spotlight Sports Update. The Tigers held on for a 4-3 win over the Cardinals in St. Louis last night. Pitcher Casey Mize got the win and earned his first career RBI when he was walked with the bases loaded. Outfielder Akil Baddoo made his return to the lineup after sustaining a concussion in a collision with teammate Derek Hill during a play on August 10th. In this afternoon's series finale, Tarek Skubal gets the start for Detroit while St. Louis sends John Lester to the mound. Lions head coach Dan Campbell said there are some concerns about the health of running back DeAndre Swift and defensive tackle Deshaun Hand. Swift has been dealing with a groin injury and has been limited during training camp. Hand also has a groin injury and has not been able to practice for the last 2 weeks. The Lions will play host to the Indianapolis Colts on Friday in the preseason finale.
The Spartan Beat.
Jalen Watts Jackson.
Spotlight Radio Network.
And we're back for the second segment of today's episode of the Spartan Beat. I'm Justin Thin, still here with my co-host Corey Robinson. And right now we have joining us live from Atlanta, Curtis Daniel. Curtis is an alum of Michigan State football, and he's close with kind of the efforts that Mel Tucker's making on the alumni engagement side of things. Curtis, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Curtis. This is Corey, by the way. I know, kind of talking to a lot of the former players, I know that you've had a huge impact on kind of keeping the guys all together, and everybody gives you credit for kind of being that glue guy to all of the former players, and now kind of tying it together with Mel Tucker and his staff and the current players.
Oh yeah, man, it's a job in its whole self, man, and it's important to me. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I was one of them people. I came out there. I was from California, so I didn't have any family on the team. So, you know, even when I came, it was an issue about who I was going to stay with. So they wanted to put me with a solid family. So they paired me up with Mill Coleman. So it was like he's a valedictorian. He has a real solid situation with his mom and the dad. So me and Mill was talking over the summer, and so you know, those people held me down, and so I like to keep it together. I like being around them. I like spending time with them, and we get it's weird. Like I tell people, there's certain stories in your life that you can't tell if the right people aren't around. So we love getting together and telling stories and stuff like that and having a great time, man. I live for it. I love them guys.
That's actually the perfect segue, because the thing I wanted to ask you about was the last time you guys all kind of got together and told some stories, and that was Spartan Dawg. So can you tell us a little bit about just what went into kind of the setup of that, and then kind of what it was like to be back, and just what it means for the program to have a coach that kind of thinks about the alumni so much?
Yeah, that was good. I mean, Saeed had kind of came in, and he and Darian called me. We did a Zoom call, and so you know I was doing something, so I got on the last hour of it and was just giving them feedback. And like I always say, you know, I always say perspective is everything. like I tell people, it's like, my daughter's 8 years old, and when she walk up to the refrigerator, she just see the refrigerator and she sees snacks. I'm 6'2", so I always see the pistol grip pump sitting on the top, right? We're looking at the same thing. So my perspective is different because I'm coming from out of town. And so, my conversation with them on that call was, and the work that Shaheed walked away with was consideration. And I was telling him that when we're doing this event, that there needs to be consideration for people that come from out of town. And I was like, and I said to take the next step, there needs to be consideration whenever there's a home game. So like I was telling him, like when I fly up there, it's me, my wife, and my daughter, it's $350 a ticket. The hotel rooms be $300 at the Kellogg and at the Graduate. And then you need a rental car. And there's no consideration if you sit me at the top of the stadium. So he had an aha moment. And I was like, we was talking about two things. And I was like, I feel like I think that you guys need to think of our home, or we need to think of our home games like a bowl game. Just like when we have a bowl game, there's a designated hotel where we got worked out rates. There's certain things. I tell him that people always gather around two things. They either gather around food or music. So we need to be getting together either at breakfast or lunch or dinner. And I'm like, when I come to town, I don't want to be sitting by a whole bunch of other people. We want to be together. And so the things that brings people together are music and food. So when we talked about the Spartan Dawg thing, we discussed the breakout sections. And, and I was telling him, I thought that, we should have different rooms going on at the same time. We didn't do that. We talked about the food and stuff like that, and then we talked about the topics. And then I got hustled into doing the entrepreneur one. And, so I was going, I hesitated to do it because I told Darian that I just wanted to come up and be irresponsible. Like, I just wanted to have fun. I didn't want to have to think about a topic, have a presentation, and be getting up early and all that stuff. But then I told him I'd do it because he does a lot of things that we ask him to do. So I wasn't going to tell him no. And then my thing about what we're doing is I'm always trying to make it bigger and better and broader and epic. And so I just told him, I said, hey, man, do you mind if I bring somebody else on? And he was like, no, who you thinking? I said, shit, I'm going to ask Tico and TJ. And so I got a hold of TJ Duckett, and he agreed to do it. So then I got on the phone with TJ and told him, like, this is what I'm thinking. This is how we should do the presentation. And we did it. And it was funny because after TJ went, I let him go first. And I was like, man, it was like somebody trying to kill me on my own song. He went for it. TJ so laid back that I didn't think he was going to hop up. And he was like a dynamic speaker, and he was good, man. And I was like, I said, I done set myself up to go after him. And I think that it worked because even if I would have did the whole thing, I would have covered it. But I don't think it would have got picked up by the newspaper. The newspaper picked it up because TJ was there, and he's bigger than me, and he's more famous. And so it got taken out, and so that's what I'm about. I'm that guy that is some people that get their foot in the door, and they make sure the door only open that much. I'm the type of guy that when I get my foot in the door, I'm trying to open up all the windows and let all my brothers in. And so we want to make it bigger, and Mel gets that. Like I said before on the video, Alan called me from the tarmac when they went to pick Tucker up. And so we just been lockstep since day one. And, my promise to Tucker is that, like I said, man, y'all focus on winning the national championship on the field, and I'm going to help do what we can do to build a national championship program off the field. So Spartan Dawg Con, it got to the point where I felt the need to make a video, and we got a closed Facebook group that Ron Armstrong put together called Spartan Dogs. And I made a video, and I basically said, we graduated over 30 years ago. When did a coach ever invite you to his house? And you guys need to stop what you're doing, and everybody needs to show up. And so, it turned out we had over 130 people. And, man, you could just see it was one of them parties where the person that had the best time was Coach Tucker. He was so lit up. He was so happy. It was like he built that room for that, to entertain us. You know what I mean? And there wasn't any closed off areas really of the house. Everybody was happy, and he was happy, man. He was just, and he thanked me so many times, and I remember one time we took a picture. I was holding my finger up. I said, Tuck, I need to put a ring on this. He said, shit, we're going to get a national championship for you. So it was all good, man. It was just good times, man. And I've been throwing a dinner at the Kellogg for the last 10 years called the Spartan Dawg dinner. And after I left his house, I almost felt like I didn't really need to do the dinner anymore, because I felt like that was the time that all my brothers was together, and we got together and had a good time. And, and I was telling them, somebody made the comment that it's going to get so big that we're going to have to do it in a weave. And I told Darian and Saheed that ain't going to work. The thing that made it special is that we was at Coach's house. So no matter how big it is, we got to have that part of it at Tucker's house, and that's what we plan on doing every year.
Yeah, definitely. Like, that's what I'm definitely excited to see is now that this is an annual event, like what changes are going to happen and how much bigger it is. Because, I mean, you guys threw this together quick, honestly, because I had talked to Darian, and this kind of came together at the beginning of July where they just started kicking around the ideas, and you guys put this together.
That's the value of, like I always tell people, what's important is communication. Like, if you can't communicate to your people, then you can't do anything on a dime. You can't turn on a dime. You can't get a message out. You can't all say, hey, man, the AD stepped down on Thursday. We need a video by Friday or Monday with all the dudes on there vouching for Allen, unless you have that form of communication. So the form of communication is huge. So typically, we use the Facebook, but I know a lot of people don't get on there. So I just have a category in my phone that says Spartan Dogs, and I individually, usually reach out to everybody to make sure that everyone feels included, and we move like that. That's how we moving.
Yeah.
And so my era from 95 to 90 to 95 is really strong. The era a little bit before that with Courtney and them is really strong. And then we trying to get Darian and them's class, and then we got some of the older people, so we trying to put it all together. And I think it's going to happen this year when we win more games than everybody thinks.
Yeah, definitely. And flipping the script a little bit, we were talking about you at Mel's house. How about Mel coming down to Atlanta to catch a Braves game with you and kind of hanging out down there? What was that trip kind of about? And what was maybe that you could say publicly? What was kind of the point of that and what you guys were looking to put together?
So on there, we have another coach here. He played quarterback for us. His name is Charlie Baggett. Mm-hmm. Him and Mel are good friends and stuff like that. So Baggett had called me and told me, Tucker was coming to town and they had a suite at the Braves game and that I want to go. And my wife works for the Braves. She's an executive assistant for the highest ranking woman in the whole organization. So I was like, sure, I'll come to the game. And then again, my thought is, how do we make it bigger? Let's make it bigger. So then I talked to my wife, and we made some arrangements. And I'm like, man, we got our head coach from Michigan State University coming to the Braves game. He need to be on the big Braves vision. We need to put him on there and say, welcome to the thing. And so we made that happen. And we set Mel out, set him and Baggett out there. I didn't need to be in it, and put the other guys that was hosting the suite. And we made the phone call, and they was like, the Atlanta Braves would like to welcome Michigan State head coach Mel Tucker. And then it was funny, when we left the game, we was walking out because there's so many Georgia fans. They was just yelling that they love Mel. They, hey, Mel, we love you. You did a great job, and thanks for what you did. And, and he took pictures with them. Some alumni from Georgia were the one hosting it. And, I got to talk to them about Mel, and they was just like, we love Mel. We don't care if Mel isn't coaching at Georgia. We're going to support Mel no matter where he is. That's the type of guy he is. He said, now, you guys got a coach. You guys going to win more games this year. By about the third year, y'all going to be competing for the playoffs with Mel. And he was like, our defense this year, those all the guys that Mel got. He said, you guys got the real one. And so he was in town. He was making his runs. He had went to Florida to kiss some babies and meet some of the alumni. He came to Georgia, met the people he needed to meet, and then he went to California. And so Mel was doing what he needed to do. You know what I mean? Mel always says it takes what it takes. So he's going around meeting people, meeting our alumni that can help him bring a national championship to Michigan State. And so I remember I went to a dinner out here with Coach D. It was Alan Haller. It was our athletic director. It was the golf coach. It was the guy that owned all the Longhorns. I forgot his name. It was a big, powerful dinner. I was scared to talk. It was so powerful. And I remember when I was talking to Coach D, and he was like, man, the one mistake that I made is that I didn't ask for enough. He said when we had it going and we were going to the playoffs, we were right on par with Clemson because they're real good friends with Dabo. And he was like, the difference, the thing where I made the mistake, Curtis, is I didn't ask for enough. I should have asked for more when we was at that point. And he said that's the difference between us and the Clemson program is that Dabo asked for everything when they was hot, and they just went on. And so, you know, we were at that thing talking about some of the stuff that's about to be implemented now, expanding the Duffy, you know, going digital, getting our boards up to date like the Breslin. So it's not a huge task when we have recruits or people coming in that we got to change these big old giant pictures. So, you know, we just, you know, they were talking about how there's a new stadium at Minnesota, there's a new stadium at Indiana, Michigan updated their place. And so technology-wise, we were kind of, you know, we needed to step it up. And so, you know, D'Antonio was, you know, at that point in his career, he had realized that, hey, man, I didn't pay that much attention to it, but now I'll go wherever you guys need me to do to help raise this money. And Mel just picked up from there. He hit the ground on that, you know, where you know, where D'Antonio had realized it. But, you know what I mean, when we was hot, he probably could have got them to do a little bit more. And that was one of the things that he said he wished he would have did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing insight that we don't really get anywhere else. And one question that I have to ask you for sure at the end here, and by the way, we're definitely going to have you on again because the insight and the detail that you have in your answers is just unparalleled. So definitely appreciate your thoroughness. But the thing that I have to ask you, more important than anything else, because I know you own Patrick's Studio down in Atlanta, and I'm huge into rap, and I know some of the listeners are too. So I'm on your website here, and I see albums under your client list from Lil Baby, 21 Savage, Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City's on here. What exactly are your top 5 rappers? I guess let's say under the age of 35, so that I actually know their names.
Under the age of 35,
Tupac.
Man,
counts,
you know, well,
right?
you know, I'm a try, but you know, like I always tell people, I kind of gave up after Rick Ross and Kendrick.
Oh, I got you.
But I will say, and I don't know how old they are, that I did listen to J. Cole's album, and I like that. I don't know how old Wayne is. It was only 1 or 2 songs on his album that I didn't really kill for. You always got to remember, I'm from L.A. I grew up on NWA, so I like some gangster music and some people that's really rapping. I don't really do the emo rap and all the little harmonizing and stuff like that. The younger people, man, they be in and out of their studio so much that I don't know. I will say I do respect Young Dolph. I've sat down and met him, and he's doing his thing independent, and I respect him because he always wants to talk to me because he be wanting advice on how to do certain things. I know we done Lil Baby them and all that stuff, but I hadn't met them. Who else you got? I like Homegirl because I think that she can rap. Miss Lotto.
Okay.
You know, I like what she's doing or whatever. Yep, if I named 5, that would be it.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I know Dolph has a huge following out in Memphis, and I know my top dude right now in the game is for sure Lil Baby. So,
let me ask you something. There's one dude that just came out, and I know I was talking to Trey Person because he had sent me a song, and he's dope. I can't even think of his name, and I asked a bunch of people to send me some songs, so when I'm working out, and he sent it to me, and the dude is nope. I'll figure it out.
You text me his name, and I'll put you on a whole playlist for him because I'm sure I know about him. But yeah, if you're trying to listen to some dudes that really rap, like your old LA days, and not some of these new guys, I would definitely recommend listening to some Detroit rap. A lot of these dudes over here in Detroit that haven't made it big yet, these guys are really, really rapping. So. That's my recommendation to you. But Curtis, thank you so much for your time. The answers you gave were just tremendous, and we're definitely going to have you back soon because we can just tell that you have lots of great stories to share. So Corey and I thank you tremendously for your time.
All right, man. I appreciate you calling me, and can I say one last thing in parting?
Yes, sir.
All the love, all the support and all the momentum that we have for Mel Tucker and his program, it needs to be unconditional. We need to support them and support our Spartans, support Izzo, support everybody, even when it go bad, and we need to all move in the same direction. And I will give you one thing that we're working on that nobody knows. We are going to put together, we was talking about this, I want to put together a Spartan Dawg walk. Like we already do the Spartan walk from the Kellogg, and we don't want to take away from the current players. But we're talking about doing a Spartan Dawg walk from the Sparty, the statue, to the stadium every home game. We'll probably meet there about 45 minutes before the game. All the former players is there, and then do a Spartan Dawg walk from Sparty, the statue, over to the stadium. So look for that coming up. We got to put it together. I'm speaking it into existence, and hopefully it'll be in play during the first game where some of the people get some of to see some of their favorite Spartans who attend all the home games.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Curtis. But yeah, we're definitely going to have you back on again for sure because I think between you and Jay Green and I want to get Big Mooby in here too. I've been talking to him where we could just chop it up for the whole thing because you guys bring so much more than a lot of the fans have probably ever honestly heard. So I want to thank you personally also for coming on.
All right, man. Y'all keep doing the good work. We need media, so y'all keep doing what y'all doing, and we'll support you guys as well.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot for listening, guys, and that does it for this week's episode of the Spartan Beak. Check us out again next week.